think we're ready to start this thing up. There should be gas in the carburetor because, you know, it's pumping gas when I up to the carburetor when I did the compression test. For now, I've just plugged all the vacuum lines because we're going to need to do some tuning on this carburetor, idle mixture and all that stuff. I don't want to risk trying to do it with some vacuum leaks, you know, throwing things off. So we'll get it tuned right, and then when we hook up the vacuum lines, if we've got, you know, if it all of a sudden is running incorrectly, then we know we've got a leak somewhere. So plugged these in the back of the manifold, plugged, I'm also gonna need to set the timing on it. So I've plugged off the vacuum advance. I've got a vacuum gauge plugged up so we can, I like to adjust idle mixture to where we get the best vacuum. That's, you can do it by how it runs as well, but it's nice to go by ear and have, you know, some indication there. So yeah, I think, like I said, we're ready to start this thing up. I don't know about y'all, but I'm excited to hear this thing run. I'm gonna reposition my fan here. It's pretty hot here in the shop. So let me reach in, turn the key on. I need to, the face of my vacuum gauge is not best. I've got another one somewhere, but we'll use this one for now. So we're going to turn the key on. Put the battery up. I think we'll give it one little squirt. I didn't think it'd be this hard to start. I don't know if it wants to choke or not. Yeah, our timing was off. Go that way a little more. Give it a little more. It liked that, so. Oh. Distributor came unplugged. The clips broke on it. We're going to have to do something about that. They had tie wraps around it, so I guess we'll do the same thing. So quiet. Yeah, I think we got the distributor one tooth off. We may pick it up and put it back down. Definitely pretty happy now. Man, it is quiet. Fix the whole lot now. Here you get a timing light on it. So why don't you give me a few minutes and I'll get the timing set on it. We may need to pull the distributor and set it back down. Like I said, I had the distributor out twice and I roughly marked it both times. But when I put it back in the second time, it was either, I guess my mark wasn't quite lined up right, because it was either one way or the other way. One tooth this way or one tooth that way. And I made a guess, and I think I got it one off. So I'm going to check, see where it is, see where it wants to be. And if we can't get enough turn out of the distributor, we'll pick it up and reset it down one tooth over. Alright, I've been messing with the mixture screws a little bit. We've got the timing set at 16. I moved the distributor over, actually 2 teeth over, because that wire for the distributor is a little on the short side. And so we've got it at 16 with enough to, we're not going to go any lower than 14. 14 is what the spec is for it. So we can move it a little bit that way and still be able to get it to 14 if we need to. But we've got plenty of room to advance it if we want to. So I put it at 16 just as a guess. We may need to back that off. It may want more advanced. I don't really know. We need to see what the total timing is. We'll do that in a little bit. And I want to actually look up and see what people recommend for total timing on these things. I'm sure the mechanical advance in the distributor is going to be pretty awful, and we'll probably need to adjust, maybe change some weights out to get it tweaked a little better. But I want to see what total timing is and see where or what people recommend on these for total timing. But we've got the mixture screws pretty good. It's idling really nice, and it's got good throttle response. So I think we're close to, well, it's raining now. If it'll stop raining, we may be able to take it for a little drive, but I'm going to need some help. I've got the hood sitting on it, so I'm going to need to get the hood off. But it's never run this good, and it is so quiet. And I can hear it now. It's got a hole in the muffler. Couldn't hear that before. But yeah, it's running really nice. All right, so got the timing set. I backed it off, so with the vacuum advance disconnected, we had 37 degrees of total timing. What I was reading, they were saying anywhere from 32 to 34. So I backed it off to 14, which is what it's spec'd for on the valve cover, 14 degrees. We'll just leave it there for now. And because that seemed like a lot of advance. Now, the vacuum advance on this thing is pretty aggressive. So you plug that thing up and it shoots over to 34 advanced. That seems excessive. So we may need to rethink that. It runs good, so I mean, just let it be, I guess. But yeah, for now we'll leave it. I've got the distributor locked back down. I need to tie wrap the distributor wire so it won't come unplugged. Choke's working. We've got it full of water. We need to, I don't think we need to do anything else. We need to wait for it to stop raining. And I need to somehow try to figure out how to get this hood off. I need to get some help or something to set this hood down. And because I could be working on the top, but I can't get to it because that big heavy thing is on it. Oh, the other thing, when I pulled the thermostat housing off, that old thermostat. It was one of those fail-safe, not old thermostat, but the new one I got. It was a fail-safe thermostat, and it failed safe. It was locked open, so I put a new thermostat in it. Temp gauge is working. Fuel sending unit's working. Oil pressure light's working. I mean, look at that. Didn't touch the gas. Didn't do anything. I did check the the alternator is charging. It was putting out 13.8 volts. So our old voltage regulator is good. Hey, the throttle response on it is just accelerator is sticking a little bit. It may need more spring, more return spring. It feels very, very lightweight. So I may have to put spring on it. I feel like you blip it and it's good, but if you just give it a little gas, it sticks. But it feels much lighter than it did. You can pull it back with your foot. So but I may get up under there and kind of spray. Maybe it's kind of froze up, and we'll, if we need to put a return spring on it, we will, I guess, but I really don't want to. I am so thrilled. This thing, it is so smooth running. It was rough before, and man, I'm thrilled. It runs awesome, and it sounds good. As far as it doesn't have that clanking or clacking exhaust manifold gasket. That was awful. Well, it's lacked up from raining. This thing, it just runs so much better. Accelerator's still sticking just a little bit. Transmission fluid. Let me turn around and head back, baby it back. It's a little, yeah, there it went. It's kind of not wanting to engage. So let me try to get it back. Yeah, the pan gasket is leaking awful, so it doesn't surprise me it's a little low. Not wanting to shift into second. I'm pretty sure that's just low, or could have something with our linkage. Kick down linkage. I don't know. Alright, made it back. First gear was just fine, but it was when it would try to shift into second. If it did shift into second, it wasn't there. Pretty sure it's just low on fluid. It's been completely fine before, so I feel like that's our issue. Got the pan off. Wasn't too bad. I cleaned up around the pan before I took it off because the transmission itself is pretty grungy. This thing was up in a farm, or up at a farm, dirt roads, all that kind of stuff, so it's pretty caked. So we just cleaned off in the area of the pan pretty good, just to make sure we didn't drop any contaminants in when we're trying to put the pan back in. We're gonna have to clean this up, and to be honest, it looks pretty good. There's not a lot of clutch material in it. There's some probably bushing material there, but not that bad, especially since this pan has never been off before. Original gasket, all that kind of stuff. And you might ask how I can know for sure that this pan has never been off and how this transmission has never been rebuilt. And you may be also asking what that is. This is a plug to plug off the dipstick hole. That's how I know. So, when these things were shipped or whatever, this plug was in there, and they just knock it down in the pan, knock it down into the transmission when they put the dipstick in. That's what that is. It's a little plug. So that's how I know this pan has never been off, because somebody would have taken this and pulled it out of the pan. So that is pretty cool. It's another thing that leads me to believe that, this thing is low mileage. And this transmission's never been serviced. And I figured out, I don't know what I was thinking. I told you it wouldn't shift. I thought it was low on fluid because it literally, this thing leaves a puddle wherever you park it. So I know it was probably a little bit low, but that's not why it wouldn't shift. I haven't plugged up any of the vacuum stuff on here. I plugged off all the vacuum lines, to tune the carburetor, to do the idle mixtures and look at vacuum and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to make sure there was no vacuum leaks when I was doing that. Completely forgot to plug up the modulator line. So yeah, of course it's not going to shift. So, but anyway, this needed to be done. We've got a new pan gasket and filter, so I'm going to go back under the car, take the filter off. I've got it dripping for a little bit because, yeah, it's nice to let them drip so they're not dripping as much when you go up under there to remove the filter. And then I got to scrape off this old gasket, clean up the transmission surface, and when the bolts are done, we'll be ready to, I got to clean the rest of this pan. But anyway, when all that stuff's done, we'll put it all back together. I figured we could paint a rusty old pan, and it's going to go back on blue. It probably originally was not painted at all, I'm guessing, but it's blue now, and it's drying. When it dries, we'll go put it on. Got the fan on it, trying to get it to hurry up and dry. Might as well, I guess, show you off underneath so y'all can see the inside of the transmission. Got the new filter on, and we'll put the fan on as soon as it's dry. I got the fan going. We'll try to block y'all from the fan, but there's our transmission. I just sprayed the gasket area with brake cleaner. I've already scraped it. We'll take a paper towel and run over it right before we put the filter on, just to kind of dry it and get any other transmission fluid off of it. There's our new filter. The old one, it's just a filter screen. To be honest, we probably could have just left the old one in place. It looked good, but we got a new one and we're putting it in there. So yeah, we're just waiting for the pan to dry, and then we can put this thing on. And we're done. I'm about to let this thing down. I think the blue looks pretty good, and it's cleaner than it was. You can see the grime up there. We just focused on the area around the pan. I know the whole thing needs to be done, but that's for another day. I only had 1 quart of transmission fluid of Type F, so I threw that in there, and I'm gonna have to get some more, and we'll top it off. But I'm gonna go ahead and let it down, and that way, once we get the other fluid, we can fill it up and it'll, read correctly. So pretty good, and it should stop the leaks. Hopefully there's no other leaks on it. It looked like most of it was coming from the pan, but you never know. I like the blue. I think it looks good under there. Let me show y'all our fuel line situation here. So, of course, on the Edelbrock Performer, or AFB, whatever you want to call it, the fuel inlet's way over here, and our fuel inlet is over there. So we have to get it from here to here. And originally I had a hose coming all the way over here, and this I had a 3/8 fitting here. Now what I've done is I bought this Edelbrock fuel line, and it's a metal line that comes down and has a 3/8 fitting here. This is a 3/8 barb. Can't change that out. I've looked at other options from Edelbrock, and all they had were AN fittings. So it was either 3/8 barb or AN fittings. But my issue is my fuel line is 5/16. So what I've got now in this fuel filter right here is 5/16. So I have a 3/8 hose just clamped down really tight on this 5/16 filter. I don't like that. I ran into AutoZone. So I bought this fitting here, this Edelbrock fitting at O'Reilly's. Went into AutoZone to grab some clamps, and what I came up with, what they had, was this Spectra fuel line for Edelbrock. To me, the quality is probably not as good as the Edelbrock, but what it is, theirs just has a 3/8 pipe thread, and so you buy whatever fitting you want. So what I did is I bought a 3/8 pipe to 5/16 barb. So this is going to go on here just like this, and then we're going to have this 9D barb coming out that's going to come over with 5/16, and then we'll have our filter. And what I did for filter, this little Wix filter, little bitty guy, we're going to run it right there instead of that big filter. Like I said, we've got a brand new fuel tank on this thing. I'm good with the small filter. We'll change it every oil change. That makes us feel happy. Whatever. I just didn't want that really big filter up there. So let me get to work. I'm going to change that out. I'm not too crazy about the banjo fitting that the Spectra came with. It came with some nylon washers, where the Edelbrock came with some aluminum washers. I think I'm going to just reuse the, I don't really like the nylon, so I'm going to reuse the aluminum washers. And then the banjo bolt looks a little short on the Spectra. Like I said, the Spectra quality is not the best. But I don't know why Edelbrock doesn't offer something like that. I can show you right here. Straight out of the box, the aluminum plating on the Spectra is starting to flake off. So it's not the best, but it gives us what we need. So I guess that's where we are here. So I need to put the little pipe plug in the little 1/8 inch hole that it has for a fuel pressure gauge, and then I'm going to take this one off, and like I said, probably reuse this. I'll inspect the banjo bolt. We've used this one, so we're going to have to keep it. We can't return it. So it's going to go on the shelf. We may use it for something else later on, but I think I feel safer using the banjo bolt, or at least the washers from the Edelbrock. Alright, we're done. So, show you what we got. A little overkill. I reused the banjo bolt, like I said, for the Edelbrock, and the inside diameter of the banjo fitting is the same on both, but the shoulder on the Edelbrock is slightly larger. The Spectra fits kind of loose, wobbly in the fitting, and the crush washers fit loose around the banjo bolt. So it would be like having to try to center them up because they're not going to be quite centered. It just wasn't a very good fit. So, like I said, not too crazy about the quality of the Spectra. If you look online, you can find this same, like Amazon has this same threaded fuel line for an Edelbrock carburetor under some different brands, but to be honest, they're probably the same supplier as Spectra. So I think the quality is going to be the same. Just use your best judgment on, you know, whether you want to run the nylon fittings, nylon crush washers. Yeah, it's up to you. But this is what I came up with. This is what I felt good about. We sealed the threaded connections with Permatex number 1, which is safe for, it's the Permatex 1 Forma gasket. It's safe for, or it's for use on threaded fittings as a thread sealer, and then it's gasoline safe. So don't use your normal, you know, Teflon tape, because it's not going to hold up to gas. I use Teflon tape all the time on water connections, but when it comes to gas, it's a no-no. So yeah, we've got this sealed off. We've got our angled 5/16 barb fitting in here at a slight up angle to give it some clearance around here. Got a 5/16 hose running over to our filter. This is a vacuum line. I'll probably route it under. But then we've got our old fuel filter, and then another 5/16 over to our metal line. And then I put some wire loom around the fuel line right here just to make sure it's not touching the manifold. There is a little air gap, but just to be safe, to make sure it doesn't like flop and rub, which it would never do, I put some wire loom around it just to protect it. And I did put a hose, split a 3/8 hose and put it wrapped around the metal line right down here, and actually put a little tie wrap around the throttle lever, the casting part of the carburetor that goes around the throttle lever, and just kind of pinned it up just to give it a little bit of support. Like I said, this is all, I do a lot of stuff that's overkill, but in my mind it gives me some peace of mind, which goes a long way. So that's just to kind of support this thing. You know, it's from here to here is a long way, and so I just gave it a little support there. Like I said, I'm not crazy about the quality of the Spectra, so we're just doing our best to make sure everything stays safe and no fuel leaks. So I like that. I feel like that's a good fuel line connection. This is bothering me. There. That's better. So I think we're in good shape. So I'll start it up, make sure there's no fuel leaks, and then I think we'll be good to go. So that's going to do it for this one. On the next video, I think we're going to start doing some of the body work on this car. I think that's kind of where we are. It's kind of our last thing before we put this thing on the road. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.